Welcome to the Dome Discussions Podcast. Your top source for all things New Orleans Saints. Powered by four voices who live and breathe black and gold. Touchdown! Every hit, every play.
Welcome to the NFL.
Every moment. We've got it covered.
Let's go! Let's go! Go!
What's going on, Who Dat Nation? Appreciate everybody tuning into the Dome Discussions Podcast, part of Be in the Know Network. I'm your host, Kyle Besson, joined by Caleb Yacarino, Nick Jennings, Andrew Collins, and we are here to recap the Saints' Week 2 loss versus San Francisco 49ers. For the second week in a row, the Saints were able to put themselves in the game, and it really came down to the final drive where they weren't able to convert. The final score ended 26 49ers, 21 Saints. There's probably a lot of points that we can hit on this game, and we definitely will later in our later topics. But we're kind of just going to go over like a few stats that kind of stand out to us, and it's kind of a little bit of a game recap. I kind of want to start off with just saying the elephant in the room was Spencer Rattler had an all right game. For me, there's one thing about this game that really stands out and who you can blame. And it doesn't go to Spencer Rattler, which I know we've already seen some people still trying to put on Rattler. For me, it's just the Saints' inability to convert on third down and even get out of third and long. There was a graphic that showed up on the broadcast at one point, and it was late in the game, and the average to go on third down for the Saints was 9.5 yards. They're not doing their job on first or second down, and that's making third down impossible for them. Their final numbers was 5 for 14 on third down conversions, and in this league, that's just not going to get it for you. And on the other hand, defensively, you weren't able to get the 49ers off the field. They were 8 for 15 on third down, and I believe earlier, before the final 3 drives, they were 8 for 12. So until the defense really turned it up in the fourth quarter, the Saints couldn't get off the field on third down, and they couldn't get off the field on third down on defense, and the offense couldn't stay on the field because practically made it impossible for themselves on first and second down. But anything that you guys kind of want to pinpoint in the game, any numbers that stand out for you, just anything that you want to go over?
Yeah, well, actually, there's 2 areas that I would like to point to, and actually they have to do with what you just said in that third down defense. 2 reasons why they've had so much trouble with that third down defense is open field tackling. It's still an issue. We've seen it for years now. It shouldn't be an issue. This is something you would expect to clean up, especially with the emphasis the team has put on it. But you saw it lead to a couple of scores, especially that first one to the tight end, Luke Farrell. That's just not what you want to see. And then also you saw Mac Jones using his legs against you. You don't need to see that. Mac Jones had a 13-yard run against the Saints defense. If you have Mac Jones tearing you up on the ground, get ready for Josh Allen in week 4, because this is just – I don't know what to say about it anymore. We've been pinpointing these 2 issues for so long now. You've seen the Saints bring in personnel that is expertise in these areas, and yet they still haven't been able to fix it. So those are 2 areas that have stood out to me for sure.
Yeah, I just want to go back real quick to the third down topic. I never when looking at the focusing on the offensive third down conversion and the defensive third down stops, I think the defensive third down stops is a lot bigger of an issue, because I do think, and this isn't me looking at stats, this isn't me looking at anything like any proof, but except watching the game, it felt like that those third and longs happened because first thing, penalties. There were still some penalties. There were drops. There were some other mistakes that led you to that. It wasn't just like, hey, these are completions, or you're running the ball 30 times and it's not working. It felt like it was more mistakes that can be cleaned up. But also, the 49ers defense is good enough to stop you on third and long. Like, third and long is not an easy thing to pick up. Yes, as you just saw, the 49ers did it against the Saints, but there's a reason behind that, and I'm going to get to that real quick. So with the defense, I'm going to talk about it in my more later, because there's a certain player I want to talk about, but it just felt like that right now the scheme Brandon Staley uses is very zone heavy, and it feels like when on some of these third and nines, and let's say that maybe more a Dennis Allen defense, we would get those stops, it felt like, where it's like man, and it's just you trust your players. And I think we're so used to that because the zone's giving it up, it's a little bit weird. And I honestly think these players might not be used to those zone calls and need to get used to that. But also the defensive line they had a really good game, but struggled to really make a difference on third down and third and long, because when there's that threat of running, they were able to stop the run. I know Christian McCaffrey, and he just broke for so many yards at times, but it felt like they got the plays, they made the plays, they're doing everything well to get to third down, but just they don't have enough talent to really have that disruptor to just make a difference on third down and pressure Mac Jones. And it feels like the defense also didn't blitz a lot. I know they did it here and there, but compared to last game, it just didn't. Brandon Staley really didn't use as much, which was very interesting to me. But I feel like if Chase Young comes back, or when Chase Young comes back, that's going to make a huge difference. And maybe these third and longs start getting stopped. But also, when I talk about my player layer, that's going to be another difference.
I kind of want to shift to the offensive side of the ball and to go a little bit more with Spencer Rattler and how he got more comfortable as the game went on. He started off really shaky, 1 for 6. Granted, not all those were his fault. Juwan Johnson had a pair that was just a flat-out drop. But then, I don't have the exact number, but I believe he went on for about 15 straight completions. And you really saw him settle down. His accuracy was really good. He looked decisive. And that's exactly what you want to see from him. Fans are blaming Rattler. He did everything he could. I don't think this game is on him at all. Some of the times, the supporting cast may have hurt him a little bit, not brought in some balls that they could have. But I thought Rattler had a great game. Really settled in, and looks like he could take helm at the Saints offense.
And for me, because we could go to the offense now, I still don't like that Rattler's out here throwing the ball 43 times last week, 34 times this week. But I mean, the Saints are at this point getting in positions where they do have to start throwing the ball. Now, I said it on last week's recap, where I was like, or it might have been the most recent episode, where basically I don't want to see Spencer Rattler throwing the ball as much as he has, and I don't think Kellen Moore should go away from the run as much as he has, and it kind of seems like he started to do that a little bit this week as well, but then he went back to it, and then we saw how explosive that was, and that's one of my biggest points for this game was this. Alvin Kamara really got going as a runner. He averaged 4.7 per carry. He had almost 100. He had 99. He basically had 100. I believe he had a tackle for loss that actually took him out of 100. But I just think 34 for Rattler still is too much because 43 plus 34, that's 77 pass attempts over the past 2 weeks. I just think that's too much for your technically first time starting quarterback, in the sense of this is the first time, this is his team, he's leading it, and offenses are preparing, or defenses are preparing for Spencer Rattler, and you have him throwing the ball 77 times over 2 weeks. A lot of the times it's on obvious passing downs too, or it leads to obvious passing downs, and now Spencer Rattler, who is a young quarterback, has to go through decipher these defense. But again, I think he did pretty well this week. And I also noticed that he got to go under center a bit more than he did last week. That was one thing that I noticed last week that I actually forgot to mention, was that he was rarely under center. It was a lot out of shotgun, and made the run game a little harder from there, things like that. So I think we could slow down on the harsh Spencer Rattler. And when we went to our quarterback ratings, I was a little more harsh on Rattler last week than most of us were. I just thought he put the ball in harm's way a little too many times. Well, now he's 2 weeks in, hasn't thrown his first interception yet. He did fumble, and we knew that was a problem in preseason. It was a pretty rough blitz, and a fumble's going to happen 4th and 2 when you need it for the game. I don't really blame him. I think he was just trying to make a play that he knew he couldn't make. So I don't blame him for the fumble, but he has protected the ball. I just think he's throwing the ball too often.
Can I make two real quick points about that? So I completely agree that when Kellen Moore did almost go away from the run, and we were talking about it before we started recording, but it almost felt like Kellen Moore was starting to go to the dark side a little bit, where he went pass heavy, and then he went to halftime and made those halftime adjustments and hey, the run is working, so let's go back to it, which is a clear thing that I think when the Saints hired a new head coach, I was like, that needs to happen, halftime adjustments. And it's clear that happened, which is very nice to have. My one argument with the higher pass totals this week is that because the Saints were behind, he had to pass more. Because I feel like that when you're behind, you pass more, obviously, but they never got that lead, so they kind of had to keep passing more. Last week, it was closer, and it felt like the Saints could run to get to the lead, but this time it felt like, in my opinion at least, that they had to keep passing more and to get that lead a little bit more. Plus, the 49ers run defense is a little bit better.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying, and I'd have to see how many pass attempts he had in the fourth quarter. 34 isn't anything crazy, especially because we know he started out 1-8, or it was like started out 1 for 6 or 1 for 7. So he was actually pretty efficient. For me, it's going away from the run that I'm talking about in the second quarter. There was in the second quarter, the Saints were down 9-0. But I do an actual counterpoint that I noticed throughout the game that I kind of didn't point out was, well, the 49ers are also stopping the run at that point. The run game wasn't as efficient in the second quarter, and maybe Kellen Moore thought he had to beat him with the pass before he could run the ball. I mean, that's kind of how it goes. If you can't run the ball, you got to try to throw the ball. If you can't throw the ball, you got to run the ball. It'd be nice if we could do both of them pretty decently, but that I don't think I've seen that from the Saints yet, where they've been able to both pass and run the ball efficiently yet. And so you're kind of one-dimensional, and that's just how you get beat as an offense, is if they can force you to do one thing and they know what you're going to do, they can counter it pretty easy.
And this would have been a nice Devin Neal game. I know it really felt like that with Alvin Kamara doing well up the middle and Kendry Miller not getting as many snaps as I thought he would, but still doing well. Like, I just felt like Devin Neal could just get thrown in and you get 6 yards up the middle. And
I mean, I think
I'm surprised. Yeah, I'm surprised he wasn't played also.
I mean, I think that most games that could be a Devin Neal game, but I do agree in this circumstance, especially when they were trying to go up the middle. That's Devin Neal's game. I do feel like he would have been a great fit, and it would have kind of relieved a lot of the pressure off Kamara to let him go outside more. And I just kind of would have liked to see that more, but I'm sure Moore had a reason to not play Devin Neal. Before the season, he said that Kamara was going to be the main back, which he was this game, and Kendra was thereafter. It's apparently not the situation for him this game, and went into that with a game plan, executed it. But yeah, we'll see if any of them, or even Velus Jones Jr., who hasn't really been seen this year that much, see if any of them get more opportunities.
Yeah, and going back to what Caleb said regarding the adjustments, that's something that I was really happy to see today. Rashid Shaheed only had 16 snaps at halftime among the wide receiver group. I believe Chris Olave had 31 and Brandon Cooks had 24. After the first half, Rashid Shaheed came out in the second half and had 4 receptions for 52 yards and a touchdown. So you saw that they put an emphasis on getting him the ball. Last week we had a complaint about not using Devon Vele in the red zone. This week, what do we see? A Devon Vele red zone touchdown. It's good to see Kellen Moore learning from his mistakes, and that's something that we all knew would happen being a rookie head coach. Those are positive signs that I don't think are talked about enough, because it's easy to let everything get to you and just keep doing what you're doing. But when you're able to notice things and make adjustments, that's a good sign for what's to come.
One of the biggest things that I want to point out, because it was my prediction this week was Chris Olave would finally get going, have 130 yards. They're trying to get him going. I mean, this is the second week in a row. He had 10 targets this week. He had 13 targets. He's got 23 targets over the last 2 weeks. He had 6 receptions this week. Let me get I think he had, 7 receptions last week. So they're inefficiently trying to get him the ball, because that's now 10 incompletion targets towards Chris Olave, and they're not really hitting to stretch the field either. He had 74 yards last week. Not 74. Where did I get that number from? He had 54 yards last week and 54 yards this week. I would really like to see Chris Olave. He can make a play on all 3 levels of the field, in the short, the intermediate, and the deep. And I think we're kind of just seeing him on those quick curls, quick passes, which I like that they're getting him the ball, and they're trying to get him the ball, and they're clearly putting an emphasis on getting him the ball as well, like you said with Shaheed. But we need to start having Olave stretch the field. I again have to go through, see all 22, see if this is happening, if he's just not getting the ball. Maybe Olave's not getting the separation that he needs for these. But I'd really like to see the Saints finally get Olave going, because 108 yards on 23 targets doesn't feel the most efficient for your wide receiver one.
I mean, and he was one misplaced pass away from having a really good touchdown also. Like, it was a really good play call, and then he ran such a great route that just absolutely lost the defensive back, that it was one play away from being a much better game. It wouldn't be 100 how many yards you said, but it would have been a better game at least. And that was definitely the one part that I saw in the game where they were kind of stretching the field with him. I know it was more in the red zone, but I agree with you. Like, it was definitely more like curl routes and short routes and out routes, and it just like didn't feel as much as you could do with Chris Olave.
Yeah, and that was on the opening drive. Real quick before you go, Nick, because we're going to talk a little about this a little bit later. That was an opening drive, and that just felt like a Saints in 2025 opening drive because they had a penalty that made the offense harder. They overcame that penalty, had a missed opportunity to Chris Olave, who was, like you said, he broke wide open. Rattler tried hitting him. He threw with anticipation, but threw it behind Olave. People are debating if Olave could have caught it or not. I don't think Olave really had much of a chance coming out of a break to catch it. And then that drive ended with a missed Blake Groupie field goal. So that felt like a Saints in 2025 drive where
Plus a near interception. I think on that play also there was a near interception that Rattler threw. It was just not a great pass. So it was.
So there's just a lot of things that the Saints have to overcome and clean up. But before we get into anything else, and Nick, I'll let you go after me. It's what we can say is the Saints are staying in these games, and that's all you want to see from a rebuilding team, especially one that's consistently hurting themselves. Because you get to go back now and say, well, if they don't just shoot themselves in the foot right here, what is the outcome of this game? I know we said if we didn't have 16 penalties last week, I think this Saints team could be 1-0. And then this week, if we don't miss that Olave touchdown where he's breaking wide open, if we don't have a Blake Groupie field goal where he misses it from chip shot range for him, the Saints could. This is a different game.
Yeah, well, I was going to say regarding Chris Olave, he's probably a couple miscommunications away from having a really strong start to this season. One of the more notable things is that we did not see him limp off the field, walk off hobbled at all today. We didn't see any big hits. He was healthy. We saw him speak to the media last week. He said that every time he takes a big hit, they automatically take him to that blue tent, and rightfully so. So it's good to see that he's aware of that as well. But it was awesome to see him not have to deal with something like that and just be able to see him play football and the Saints get him the ball. Obviously, he didn't come down with every target. Obviously, those 10 targets, if he would have been a much better game. But that's something that I expect to get better throughout the season, obviously, with them being miscommunications. And he's clearly had a good connection with Spencer Rattler throughout practice this offseason. So I definitely think that the signs that we've seen now all point to a strong season for Chris Olave.
Yeah, in regards to the penalties, I think the total was 5 or 6 for the game. Seven. I think it was 7.
7 accepted, 45 yards.
So like it was better. It wasn't great, but I'm fairly certain there was 0 pre-snap. And that's a biggie because a lot of it was pre-snap last week because of the hurry up and tempo, which also they didn't do too much tempo this game. I know Kellen Moore said that they were going to keep going tempo and doing it more, but like it was less than last week, in my opinion. I feel like in the first half last week, it was just they kept doing it. And maybe they stopped doing it so much because they figured out that they are just causing penalties. Like this is if they just do it too much, it's making too many people tired. It's causing injuries. All the things that I was worried about, like maybe that is what they found in practice when they brought the refs in and stuff like that. So that was also very interesting because Rattler did well, obviously does well in tempo. We all know that happens, but like he did well out of tempo, which is new. That's not something we've seen, which is nice.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is definitely Spencer Rattler's best game of his career, right? He didn't have a game with multiple passing touchdowns before this, so this is the best game. And I think it was a healthier mix, I'd say, of tempo and non-tempo this week. I think they ran too much tempo last week, and I mean, that was the biggest, that's where all their issues came from. I think it was a healthier mix this time around. But with that, we're going to go ahead and move on to kind of our good and bads of the game now. You're going to give us one guy or one thing that you thought was really good about the game, and then one thing that you really didn't like, what was bad, what can be improved. What was your biggest issue with the game? I think we're going to start with you, Nick. Usually this is the way we go. So go ahead, Nick, and tell us what's your good and what's your bad.
Well, for my bad, there were 2 players that I thought could have had much better performances. I'll start with Blake Groupie because there's not really much to say on that. Clearly, had such an outstanding offseason. Just to see him come out and miss 2 field goals to open the season is not encouraging at all. I wrote an article before the season started that he could potentially be an all-pro this season, and I just don't know if that's even a possibility anymore. Kellen Moore said that he's got to get better and that he will get better. But that's definitely something to keep an eye on there. Maybe we'll see international pathway player Charlie Smith get an opportunity earlier than we originally thought. But then another guy who struggled was Pete Werner. Pete Werner has not looked great after the Saints gave him that extension. You really want to see a guy like that who's supposed to be one of your starters once DeMario's gone, and be your leader. You want to see him be taking strides, not taking steps backwards. And Danny Stutzman right now looks to have more potential and a higher ceiling than Pete Werner. And I'd be all for going out and getting Danny Stutzman those reps. He had a great preseason. I personally feel like Danny Stutson's more of a Demario Davis replacement type of guy than Pete Werner would be. So look, I think personally it's time to start seeing what Danny Stutzman's got. Pete Werner has not impressed me at all, and I don't really know if there's much to be discovered with Pete Werner either. I feel like we know what we've got in Pete Werner, and he's also had some health issues. So those are two negatives that stood out to me. So positive was the run game. I did think the run game looked good. Obviously, we saw Alvin Kamara lose that fumble. It's interesting. Alvin Kamara has 7 career fumbles, and 4 of them have been against the 49ers, and 2 of them have been by Fred Warner. So that's clearly his kryptonite there. But just seeing the Saints continue to use that run game, that's something that we really spoke about after the game last week. It needed to keep happening. They went away from it way too soon. And look, if the fact that Kendre Miller, even though he hasn't get the small sample size we've gotten, he still looked really good to me. I am excited to see when he does get that chance. And I still think the Saints have a hidden gem in Devin Neal that's yet to be unleashed yet. So this run game, which is something that was very lackluster last year, is something that I think can be the strength of the Saints offense when everything is set and rolling, because obviously they're still getting a feel for it right now. But I'm very confident in the Saints run game.
Yeah, and I just kind of want to ask you guys, because that was an incomplete pass, right? Am I wrong? That was an incomplete pass.
First thing, it was an incomplete pass. Second thing, if it was a pass or catch, it was Rattler's fault, because that should have been on target, and like it was not. It was behind him. So like, but it should have been an incomplete pass.
Yeah,
I tweeted this. I've learned in the past 2 weeks that a catch is never a catch, and an incompletion is always a catch. I don't know what is what. Like I don't. It doesn't make sense anymore.
He bobbled the ball too many times before taking each one of those steps. I think in the broadcast they said he took 4 steps with possession, and I saw maybe 2. Like that was
You're
to me
supposed
that
to
was
turn
an
around and
incomplete
make a
pass.
football move, but he didn't even turn. Like it was just.
Okay, I just needed to make sure. I wanted to see where we were at on that, because I definitely thought it. But no, 100%. I was actually going to go ahead and talk about Alvin Kamara, because this is gonna be a little off topic, not really. I don't know if you guys have been watching the YouTuber Bingle. He does a Madden franchise rebuild. He's been doing the Saints. He's been running Alvin Kamara into the ground, and lately it's kind of seemed like that's what the Saints are gonna do this year. So it's really funny, and he's playing really well. Like Alvin Kamara is burst quick. He's getting the ball. I mean, he averaged I think it was 4 yards. I have to pull him in 4.5, 4 point. No, that's last week. Let me get the box score. I believe he averaged 4.5 yards a carry. 4.7. AK average 4.7. That is efficient. Our problem of talking about on third down, you're facing 3rd and 9, and obviously there's other factors other than just inefficiencies like penalties, things like that. But 4 yards a carry for Alvin Kamara is your way of getting into 3rd and short. It's your way of fixing these 3rd downs. I think I'm waiting to find that healthy balance between running the ball, throwing the ball, and getting play action into the scheme. I know, Caleb, you actually mentioned last week how Kellen Moore is not actually much of a play action guy. Maybe he should become one, because you have a really efficient running back. You have a young quarterback. Let's start putting this play action into this scheme and get this going, so we can have these easier 3rd downs or, deep balls, things like that. Because we're not getting these big burst plays. We haven't, I don't think in that game we had one outside of Rashid Shaheed's first 39-yard catch to start the drive. Everything else is kind of in that intermediate area where you kind of want to start going for that bigger stuff. So Alvin Kamara, to me, is your perfect way to really fix this offense, because he's averaging almost 5 yards a carry this week. He averaged over 4 yards a carry last week, and the team as a whole averaged 4.9 yards a carry last week. I mean, this balance here of being able to run the ball isn't showing when it comes to your outcome on your offense, because you're not taking advantage of the fact that you ran the ball. Now you're running the ball, but then you're being obvious that when it's a passing down, you're getting stuck in obvious passing downs. What you're showing is an obvious passing play there, and I think the Saints need to get more tricky with how they do their lineups and everything like that.
Yeah, and real quick, I did want to touch on one more thing regarding the run game. Something that was a positive. The Saints have a mobile quarterback now. I mean, Spencer Rattler looked good on his legs, and we saw him working on it throughout the offseason. Today, went four rushes for 14 yards, had that 9-yard first down scramble. Really good play there. We have not had that mobility in the back. The Saints haven't had that option in years. I don't even think they've had somebody who's been because we know Taysom Hill has that ability, right? But I don't know if he has that starting quarterback capability that Spencer Rattler does. And to have both of those, that mobility with that starting quarterback, I don't know if the Saints have had that. And that's really big. And I think it's really been impactful on the way that the Saints have been able to run their offense. And I think it will be impactful for the rest of the season.
And he didn't just use his legs. We saw multiple times where he had to use his legs to get out of sacks. I mean, he saved the O-line quite a bit on his own because he was able to get out of sacks, make plays. There was quite a bit of times where I thought he was making a terrible play because it looks like he's running for his life instead of throwing that ball. But he was able to get out of a sack and throw a completion or run for a yard or so, things like that. So, yeah, 100%, like you're saying, we haven't seen, that break sack ability, that avoid sack ability in years. So I'm glad to see that Rattler is doing it. He had 29 yards on 4 rushes last week as well. And I mean, that one run for 9 yards that you talked about, that was in a third down, I believe, for 9 yards. He just showed that he wanted to win. Like, that's one thing that I don't think anyone can say about Spencer Rattler is he showed he wants to win. He's got the heart of a winner, and he's produced. He produced this week. That's, it's like one thing that me and Caleb said last week is if Spencer Rattler plays good, the Saints can't lose. You're going against a backup quarterback. So I'm just going to kind of go into my problem with the game. My bad from this week was Mac Jones was 26 for 39. So they forced him into throwing downs. Like I said, forced Mac Jones to throw the ball and beat you. The problem is Mac Jones did beat you throwing the ball. He threw 3 touchdowns. He only took 3 sacks. He found Juwan Jennings 5 times for 89 yards. Ricky Pearsall 4 times for 56 yards. Christian McCaffrey was a good enough safety blanket 6 times for 52 yards. The Saints weren't able to stop Mac Jones. And like you said about good luck stopping Josh Allen with his legs, good luck stopping Josh Allen with his arm. We saw what he did to the Ravens on Monday or Sunday Night Football. I don't know how this Saints defense is going to handle higher pressure, a better opponent. I mean, Mac Jones, don't get me wrong, he's been a starter in this league and he's good enough. He might be good enough to be a starter still in this league, but he absolutely torched you when he shouldn't have. You had the upper hand. Spencer Rattler and Mac Jones practically went into a bit of a shootout. I mean, like, each guy threw 3 touchdowns. Did anyone expect to hear that? So it's a shame that Mac Jones was able. And look, I give a lot of credit to Kyle Shanahan. He made it possible, and I don't want to undermine the fact that Kyle Shanahan is a great coach, and that is one of my warnings is going into this game that he's a great offensive mind, and he'll find a way to make it comfortable for his guy. But there wasn't, in terms of the talent that the 49ers could have had this week, that wasn't there. Like I said, Juwan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall were wide receiver 1 and 2. You didn't have Brandon Ayuk. You didn't have George Kittle. Christian McCaffrey's pretty banged up. I mean, come on. This is a big problem because you looked better versus the Cardinals offense, who had most of their guys. They had Marvin Harrison. They had Kyler Murray. So I don't know if this was just, Brandon Staley getting out coached by Kyle Shanahan, which this was supposed to be the Brandon Staley revenge game, by the way. But yeah, that's my bad was Mac Jones being able to torch the Saints defense for 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, it was bad, and I'll get to my bad later about one certain player that helps with that a little bit. But I have a lot of points to make first before I get to my good and bad because there's so many good things said. One thing, when we were talking about the run game, let's talk about the run blocking game by the running backs. Kendre Miller had a game. He picked up 2 blitzes. He missed a block and then immediately recovered and then blocked him out of the play. Like, one of the things we talked about with Kendre Miller, and I kept bringing it up because we're all fans of Kendre Miller. We all felt we're really high on Kendrick Miller, really wanted him to do well. If he was healthy, he was going to do well. But there was football things that he needed to work on going into the season, blocking, just a bunch of different things. This is now full Kendrick Miller hype train, no matter what. I don't care because he's doing the blocking. He's doing the little things. Now he can stay on the field, which is huge. Second thing, that the Pete Werner take, I was actually very surprised about and taken off a little bit crazy because I feel like that's not a normal thought that I've heard before. Because in my opinion, at least with Pete Werner, and I don't disagree with you, it's like Pete Werner is going to be a pretty good tackler, and I feel like he's had a decent start to the season, but never put that man in zone coverage or coverage. Never. Like we talked about it on the podcast or last podcast before end of the episode when we thought about Christian McCaffrey. We're like, who's going to guard Christian McCaffrey? Apparently, no one. And the Saints didn't have a plan for it either because they couldn't stop him in the pass game, and he was dominating. And it's the same thing with Pete Werner, kind of like what you talked about. And it's the same thing if they put Demario Davis on him. They put Danny Stutzman on him. No linebacker would have stopped that because the Saints do not have a coverage linebacker. They haven't had a coverage linebacker in forever. I don't think it's going to be something that is fixed because of these players, but I was just surprised by that take because I felt like Pete Werner had a decent start of the season. This was just like the fourth quarter was not great for him because he got exposed twice or at least twice, and it wasn't great. And I forget the third thing I was going to talk about. So I'm just going to go to my good and bad. I'm going to start with my bad because I think I talked about it last week too. Isaac Adam was targeted this game. It wasn't that he was playing bad pass defense. He was targeted on offense on every third and long. It felt like it's just he kept getting beat in man. He kept getting beat in zone. He was missing tackles. He caused a holding penalty and a penalty on special teams. Like this, and he had 2 great tackles in the fourth quarter, so I'll give him that. But if you're taking away a comp pick from this rebuilding team, I want the player to either play well or there not be a comp pick being taken away. But if the player's struggling, you have a 4th round pick, if I'm not mistaken, 3rd round pick, 4th round pick. You have a 4th round pick behind him that I'd rather see play right now because I don't think it could get worse. And I was a fan of the Isaac Adam signing. Like I think Adam's going to be a great depth piece for this team. I just don't think he should be the second boundary corner. And Alontae Taylor had a tough second half also where he wasn't covering well. And even on the Christian McCaffrey, or it was the end of the half even, end of the first half with Christian McCaffrey touchdown with seconds left. Like if there was a play there that Alontae could have made if he recognized it and he could have made the play. So like the whole cornerback room, once again, another week in a row is getting exposed. And it's one of the reasons the third down and 9 are being converted, and it's not fun. And I also remember my point real quick because I'm done with the bad. With the running game, when you were talking about, I thought about another thing for the 3rd and long. My favorite thing with Kellen Moore ever is that he doesn't run on 2nd and long. It's like my biggest pet peeve. It's something LSU has done for years because they get stopped. And then most of the time they get stopped again. And then it's 2nd and 3rd and 8, no matter what. So I'd rather the Saints offense try to get the first down on 2nd and long. But I understand also why you're saying, like, if you're picking up 5 yards a clip, might as well try. And I would like them to now try a little bit more. That's all the points. But let's be positive now. Let's be positive from a win.
Yeah, before we do, I want to go back to your point because what you said is true. Like Kellen Moore doesn't like running on 2nd and long, and I am also a big hater of running on 2nd and long. I think it sets you up pretty poorly. But Kellen Moore, I just think he's not being diverse in his play calling enough. I think first down is most often going to be a run play, and I think second down is going to be the pass play to try to get you to 3rd and short. And that's kind of been the trend where you get 2-3 yards of first down. You're like, okay, you're maybe a little unscheduled, right? 3 yards, and then second down, and it's a run. It's not a run play. It's a pass attempt, and it's incomplete. And then that's how they often got stuck in the 3rd and 7 and plus. It can't be as scheduled as that. It can't be every first down is a run. It can't be every second down is a pass, and then every third down you're forced to throw the ball, and the defense knows that. I think he needs to be a little less predictable in that, and I think he's been pretty predictable in it. And like I said, this is kind of when I go back to that, not doing much play action, because a lot of what you're doing seems very predictable at times because it's tendencies. You're doing this and you're not tricking the defense as much. And then kind of on the flip side of that is, you're doing a lot of motion. You're doing a lot of confusing for the defense then. But if they know kind of what you're to prepare for in the play, it makes it a little less. And again, I'll get the chance to go back go to all 22s, see everything, do the tendencies. What did he do on second down? What did third down look like? But from what I've been able to see from the first 2 weeks, it just doesn't look like there's enough to trick the defense.
And this actually flows perfectly to my positive, because I'm going to defend it a little. My positive is two people, Spencer Rattler and Kellen Moore, because I think both people grew a lot from game one. And I'll start with Kellen Moore because we're on the topic. I feel like and again, I'm going to also look back at the film and really see, but I feel like his play calls on passing downs, the play calls were great. Like, he was getting players open. He was making plays for Rattler to make. Rattler was making plays, or they were getting dropped, or there was a flag. Like, he called a really good game. There wasn't any glaring mistakes from Kellen Moore that I'm like, oh my God, what are you doing? Besides maybe not worrying about the slipping issue, which is not even, that's a whole different thing right now. But I saw everything I wanted to see from Kellen Moore. I mean, I know it's little. I know it's really little, but if he didn't do this, we would talk about it. Calling timeouts with 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter was a smart thing to do, because if they got the first down, you would have still gotten the ball back. Like, it was a very smart thing to do. And if he didn't do it, we'd talk about it as a negative thing, but because he did do it, we wouldn't talk about it as a positive thing. So I want to bring that up also. Like, that is good time management. And he did just all these different things that put the offense into a way to win. I blame the defense for this loss. If you would have told me about 10 hours ago that I would be blaming the defense for this loss, I wouldn't believe you. But the offense did almost everything I wanted them to, yes, barring some mistakes. And I'll get to that with now Spencer Rattler. He played a great game. I was Mr. Spencer Rattler's game manager. I really don't see him taking over this game, being a future quarterback. This was the first time in Spencer Rattler's NFL career that I'm like, okay, you are a starting quarterback in this league. I see the potential now. Yes, and I'll get to that with grades. He is not an accurate quarterback most of the time. It's never where you want to put it where the wide receiver can hit them in stride. He's going to throw behind wide receivers. He's going to throw it above wide receivers that makes and wide receivers in general, including tight ends, running backs, but make them have to jump and make the play instead of just right at them. But goodness gracious, the playbook was opened up and he took advantage of it and he looked great. Again, there's going to be mistakes, but as you said, he was commanding the line. He was changing plays. He was running out and making big plays with his feet. I mean, on the 4th down and 2, like this crazy play call that Kellen Moore cooked up. And it was basically like, hey, Rattler, you choose what happens. You could give it to the running back. You could throw it to Kamara, or you could run with your feet. And he ran with his feet and got the first down. Like, I didn't see the crazy, just worrisome things that I saw last week right off rip. Again, not looking at film because I am probably going to see him like go back too far and drop back too far, and it's causing a potential sack or missing receivers. Like, I understand that. But looking at it just game, he had by far the best game of his career and 100% bought more time to be the quarterback of the Saints.
And before Drew goes, and one thing is the beautiful touchdown pass to open up scoring for the Saints too, to Juwan Johnson, the back shoulder lob ball. And we'll talk maybe when we get just to the final part of this segment where I just name off stats. Juwan Johnson had a pretty good game as well, but that was a beautiful ball by Spencer. And I love how much trust Spencer always puts in his receivers. Juwan had the 2 drops early on and still in the same half threw him a jump ball that he came down with for a touchdown.
I mean, you kind of led right into that for me. For my good, I was going to go with a connection between Juwan Johnson and Spencer Rattler. You just said it, the 2 drops, and then that Spencer Rattler didn't lose any confidence in Juwan Johnson. Still going to him consistently. He had 5 receptions, 49 yards, and a touchdown, which it won't blow anyone away, but he had a super productive day. And you can tell that he's probably Rattler's favorite go-to target right now. He had 9 targets, Obviously, there might be a little, I don't know if it's chemistry or what, but Juwan Johnson's it's just a little bit off right now. But I can see that being corrected as they go on, get more reps. But you should be really encouraged with what you see there. And the one bad, I was going to go with Yadam, but I'm actually going to go with defensive line depth. I feel like Carl Granderson is amazing. He's had a great start to the year. Cam Jordan's played well. And when Chase Young comes back, it is going to be huge. I think he's going to play such a major role, and I'm pumped to see him back. But outside of that, and Brian Brzee, he's worth mentioning. I feel like he's played pretty well. But outside of that, it's been really shaky. Chris Rumpf had the one strip sack play, but it wasn't like he had an insane move to beat the offensive tackle. He kind of fell down, which caused him to get leverage and go right under him. But it's kind of lackluster, and you can kind of tell that that's winding down on them in the fourth quarter. I feel like that's one of the reasons that the pass rush wasn't as dynamic as late, was because they were getting tired. Granderson had to play so much that he wasn't his 100% self, and you kind of want to see that. I think it'll be fixed when Chase Young, not be fixed completely, but a big improvement when Chase Young comes back. But it's not what you would want out of a group. It's not as productive as you'd want to be.
And even Vernon Broughton got some game time in this game, and like he made a big play near the end of the game, which was very refreshing to see. And because that is a development defensive tackle making big plays for you and playing important minutes, so like that was really nice to see. But I am in complete agreement with you that the defensive line depth is pretty troublesome. Like it is, you passed Granderson and Cam right now because again Chase Young's not playing right now. They're not getting past the offensive linemen. The run defense is not great. Like everything you want good is not happening. And then it just reiterates my viewpoint of like, hey, you're going into off season. You, no matter what, 100% need to leave with another edge rusher starter. Like somewhere, somehow get it. Because you're going to have Chase Young, hopefully Cam Jordan, unless he retires, and Carl Granderson as your three edge rushers. Great. Get a young guy to go behind them, and you're gonna have that's gonna be a dynamic edge rush group. And now I don't care about the cornerbacks. Do you know why? We're gonna get to the quarterback every play. That's how you save a not great cornerback room and also take all the pressure off of them. Because again, as we've talked about many times on these third and longs, a lot of the pressure is on the cornerback room, and then it gets exposed, and it's kind of a cycle.
Well, I think that's where we kind of look towards undrafted free agents like Fadil Diggs and Jasheem Davis to kind of step up when we've needed that depth. I think I lagged.
No, you good. Oh,
you're good.
Okay, cool. I think he's okay, cool.
Y'all were frozen for me, so
go ahead.
But yeah, I think that depth is where you kind of want to see some more production. Obviously, the Saints recently signed Jonah Williams to their 53-man roster this week. He had a good amount of PT last week in week 1 against the Cardinals. So the Saints, and also Jonathan Bullard, another defensive end who was inactive. Those are guys that the veterans that you'd expect to be productive, but the Saints are banking on their young talent developing earlier and quicker than expected. And it just hasn't happened quite yet. Fadil Diggs is a guy I've been really high on. 7th round pick, was actually let go and brought back. But we just haven't seen the breakout from him yet. And Jasheem Davis is a guy who's actually been very productive in the preseason, in practice, and just hasn't really gotten the opportunity quite yet in the regular season. Obviously, we're just 2 games in. And another thing that really stood out to me was that Christian Boyd was inactive. Had a good week 1, had a good offseason. We finally saw him getting that playing time that we believed he deserved. And just out of nowhere, again, he's a healthy and active. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. I think he has a lot of potential, good nose guard, or nose tackle, excuse me. I just don't know why. Something must be happening behind the scenes that we're unaware of, because I don't know why he's not getting the minutes.
Yeah, and I kind of want to spin back to talking about Carl Granderson and Chase Young, because, I mean, the argument is Chase Young is your most talented, best defensive end on the team. And he hasn't played yet. And Carl Granderson himself has been out here. I think he currently leads the league in sacks with 3.5. He had 1.5 last week, and he's got 2 this week. Carl Granderson kind of doing his thing so far, and we're seeing it. He ended the game with 7 tackles, 2 sacks, and 3 tackles for loss. So Carl Granderson's out here. He's playing his head off. And then when you get Chase Young out here, and you got Carl Granderson on one side, Chase Young on the other, and I mean, just throw Brian Brzee in the middle on that pass rush package. That's a pretty good pass rush package that I'd like to see. So Granderson and Chase Young is, I mean, it's probably one of the league's most talented edge rushing groups. It's just that can you get the production out of both of them when they're both on the field at the same time? Can you get consistency? That's kind of been the problem. But Garrett Anderson started out with 2 big weeks. I think we're all projecting Chase Young to come back next week. It's just kind of a thing where there was a chance he could have played this week, didn't end up making it. But I don't want to say I expect him, but I think he's got a good chance of playing next week, and that'll just be a big benefit for the Saints defense, who is going to face the Seahawks, which kind of moving us into next week's talk. Before, does anybody have any else they want to say before we move into that?
Yeah, just real quick. Who
Only
would have
thing I
thought
wanna
that
say-
Carl?
I was just gonna make a joke, so go ahead.
Who would have thought that putting Carl Granderson at outside linebacker was the best thing for his career? Sometimes you know football and sometimes you don't, and this is where I do not know football because I would have said no way. He doesn't fit this scheme. He's a trade candidate. No, he's just beasting at outside linebacker of all things. Sure, why not?
And his football intelligence has shown from it too, because he'll realize a play quick. I mean, there's
He
been
almost got a
times
pass deflection on a completion. He was jumping up that. And I was like,
he's realizing plays off the, like he's about to go to pass rush, getting ready for his pass rush out of his stance, and then he sees Christian McCaffrey on a swing, and he makes the adjustment and makes a play. And that's one thing that with like I said, with Carl Granderson, he's really been able to step up and do his thing. So he's not only performing, as a pass rusher, but he's also really smart player who's realizing he's very aware of what's going on and making these plays. But yeah, so we're going to go into it now because this next topic, I kind of want to talk to you guys about what does 0-2 mean for the Saints now. The Saints dropped to 0-2, and like I said, you go to Seattle next week. You have the Buffalo Bills the week after. I mean, I could pull up the full schedule here, but a lot of the Saints earlier half of the schedule seemed about a little bit of the harder part, and then you'll make it to what you would hope is an easier strength of schedule. But they have the chance to come out of this against the Seahawks, who are now 1-1 after a 31-17 victory over the Steelers, and then obviously we know what the Buffalo Bills are. So, Nick, why don't you kind of just tell us what does 0-2 mean for the Saints right now?
Personally, this is exactly where I saw the Saints being. I think this is anything to take out of proportion when it comes to overreact or underreacting. I mean, this is. Like you said, we're just 2 games in, so obviously you are going to win one or you're going to lose one. To me, it's just normal. I don't know really what to say. It's just normal to me. Like, I feel like the Saints, we didn't expect them to win these games, so it's not like we're now feeling worse about the development of the team or feeling worse about Kellen Moore or anything like that. This is just what I expected.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I have here in my notes. It's like I wouldn't put much into it. We didn't expect the Saints to be very competitive. My big note with them being 0-2 is they stayed in these games. That's what you want to see. This is a rebuilding team. You're not getting blown out. You're losing. You had 2 chances in each of these games. You had one chance each at the final drive to go ahead and steal one. Now, for me, it's disappointing that the Saints weren't able to steal one of these games, specifically this week over a very injured 49ers team, because now you're going to go on a small road trip over these next 2 weeks. You had your chance to get your wins at home. Week 1 and 2, you didn't, and now you're going to have to go to Seattle. You're going to have to go to Buffalo. Seattle nor Buffalo are places that are easy to play. Spencer Rattler, we got to see him develop a little bit early, but now he's going to go into some hard places, these places where he's going to be screaming. Like we saw it against Lambeau, against the Packers on, was it Monday Night Football? I don't remember what it was. It could have been Thursday. I just know it was a primetime game in Lambeau that Spencer Rattler did not have a great game in. And, luckily it's not primetime going in. But these Bills fans are crazy. These Seahawks fans are crazy. They'll scream at anybody. Now, for me, it's from here on, the Saints probably won't see a .500 record for the rest of the year. I think that's becoming pretty difficult at this point to get over a .500 from where they're at, starting 0-2. At least after the Bills game, I think you're 1-3. I don't know if I can see the Saints coming. And that's kind of one thing that I wanted to hope to see this team be able to do for possibly confidence booster is be able to see 500, be able to see above 500 by chance. And I thought you would have been able to steal one of these games early. Clearly didn't happen. I think I bet the Saints to not bet, but my guess on if the Saints will win, both week 1 and week 2 was yes. From here on out, it doesn't go that high, and I think I like what I'm seeing from the Saints. It's just we know what they are in sense of a talent standpoint and putting everything together. So from this point forwards, I don't know how many more times I can say I think the Saints could go ahead and steal one or win one. So in a confidence booster way, I think the Saints won't be able to get to see that 0.500. But in sense of the division, it's not that big of a problem right now. The Panthers just fell to 0-2. The Falcons are currently 0-1, and they'll take the Vikings on tonight. Tonight. They'll take on the Vikings tonight. And I mean, the Bucks are 1-0, but they're that basic heavy favorites at this point to win the division.
Yeah, and I do want to clarify real quick. I guess I could have made it a bit clearer. The reason it's so hard for me to say how I feel about the 0-2 start is because I made it very clear going forward that wins and losses do not define this season for me. So to me, I just see all the signs. I don't really see the wins. I don't see the losses. I just see what's happening on the field and what's could be happening moving forward. So I just wanted to clear that up real quick. And regarding your point to the Falcons, that joke I was going to make earlier, they already missed the kick with their new kicker after benching Younghoe Koo. So I did want to point that out.
Good on
All
them.
right, yeah, go ahead, Caleb. You tell us now.
Flip it to Drew because I have to get my computer charger.
All right, well, go ahead, Drew. You tell us.
Okay, I mean, I'm on the same wavelength as Nick. The wins and losses don't mean as much to me, but it kind of reaffirms what the national media thought was kind of over ours. They thought that we'd be one of the worst teams in the NFL, and that's kind of shown so far. But if you ask anyone who knows the team well, I don't think that's necessarily true. Yeah, we're 0-2, but Rattler has honestly looked fine. It's been really the defense, in my opinion, that has kind of not lived up to the hype. But the young players haven't played bad. They've shown potential. And I think that's kind of inspiring for the future. Maybe not these upcoming weeks, especially that week 4 game. Don't expect anything from that. But for the long-term future, I feel like although we're 0-2, fans should be hopeful about what they've seen.
And I'm in agreement. Real quick. Can I go real quick? I'm in full agreement, with everyone. It is just so, there's positives to take away from these wins, but I don't care if they're winning or losing. I haven't felt this way in a Saints season, and I don't know when, where I'm just like, hey, wins and losses do not matter. I want to see positive things. But, this game felt better than last game, but I felt more disappointed this game, which is why it feels better. I felt a little sadder when the Saints lost this game compared to last game, but I think that's because I saw a better team this game. I really saw an offense do well, and maybe it's just reminding me of the bad Saints defense, good Drew Brees seasons, but a good offense get messed up because of a bad defense. And that's kind of why this loss at least kind of messed me up. But in regards to the team, I think morale's still high. I think they still believe they are. I mean, they are a few plays away from winning both games. That's all you ask from a rebuilding team. That is literally all you want from a rebuilding team. And these aren't bad, close losses where both teams are playing bad. It really feels like the Saints could have won these games. It feels like they have a quarterback to rally around right now. Just if you combine the good parts of game 1, you combine the good parts of game 2, this is a NFC South division winning team. They just need to put it together. And yes, you can start winning, which is amazing. But I'm not going to care about an 0-2 record that much.
And one thing that you could kind of look at it in a sense is the Saints lost to 2-0 teams. So, I mean, it's not like the 49ers won week 1 over the Seahawks, and the Seahawks won pretty convincingly over Steelers, who won pretty big over the, you can kind of, that's the NFL, and that's not how it always works. But the Saints are clearly playing teams that are still pretty good no matter, how you look at it. And yes, this was a Mac Jones-led 49ers team, but when you look at who they have as a coaching staff, what their coaching staff has accomplished, it's a well-coached team, and they won week 1. They beat the Saints week 2. That's a 2-0 team. The Cardinals were whooping on the Panthers to start, and they kind of let go a little bit of it older. But, that's saying, these are good teams in the sense that, or these are all right teams, and the Saints didn't get blown out by any of these guys. They stayed in these games, and they had the chance to steal wins from these teams. So that's in the sense where you look at it. And again, like I said, it's not always, well, my 5-12 team ended up beating your 10-6 teams. It's not like that. It's X's and O's. It's all these things. But it's a sense of that the Saints are staying in games with these good teams. And like you guys said, I think this has almost been the consensus on Twitter at this point, is fans are like kind of happy coming out of the game, right? Like the Saints lost 26-21 this week, but fans are like, all right, Spencer Rattler threw 3 touchdowns. Alvin Kamara was pretty good. I do think this is a better showing by Kellen Moore than it was week 1. Things like that, where fans are, it feels like there's a consensus of fans are, excited to see what's good for the future. Now, the upsettingly has happened where the dome is being taken over and things like that, where there was a lot of 49ers fans in the dome. And I don't know how much that affects for player morale. But I do know one thing is, you talked about player morale. Spencer Rattler himself has said that he doesn't think, the locker room has been much affected by this 0-2 loss, and they see how close they are to taking these games. So that's one thing that I think these guys know, that they're right there. It's a young team. They all understand that. The coaching staff understands that. At this point, it seems like the fans understand that, which with this fan base, it always feels like there's one on one side, one on the side. You just got to pick a side. Seems like everybody's in agreement. This is a rebuilding team, and we just want to see this team compete. And that's what we're getting. We're getting good play from Spencer Rattler. And, it kind of goes to one of our points now, is because Spencer Rattler has been playing pretty well. Will we actually end up seeing Tyler Shuck sometimes this season? It feels like you kind of have to, right? But, I mean, if Spencer Rattler has another 3-touchdown game, but the Saints continue to lose, like the pace is like, when does Tyler Shuck become a topic? Because Spencer Rattler, like I said, buying himself weeks. He's producing, and he's playing well enough where it's like, well, why do we put Tyler Shuck out there right now?
It's actually funny because I think this is kind of mirroring training camp, because right now, in my opinion at least, it's like Spencer Rattler's job to lose. Like, if he plays bad, yeah, you could start looking that way. But if he plays mid to good, I'm like, okay, you could keep the job for the year. Like, I don't care. Like, Tyler Shuck's developing, fine, but we're not gonna, or we Saints are not gonna win games. Like, I'd rather see some development from Rattler, which is what we've seen. And if he's going to run Kellen Moore's scheme, and you don't want to mess up Kellen Moore's scheme either for his development, then yeah, just keep Rattler in there. That's totally fine. And I also think, with like looking at the next 2 games, Seahawks Bills, I think the Seahawks game's going to be similar to this. The past two games, I think it's going to be a close battle. Maybe call it blind fandom, but I think the Saints are going to win. Look at me choosing 3 weeks in a row. But I think there's a chance they're going to win, because the Seahawks are 1-1. But game 4 is the test. Because let's be real, we could say that these 3 teams are good. But like, it's still early in the season. The Saints were 2-0 last year. Like, things can change very quickly. And then also, these teams just might need to play some better competition, and then that will happen. The Bills are the Bills. We know what the Bills are. If the Saints keep a close score against the Bills, we have a whole different convo to have. We have I'm happy going into next season type convo. I don't care what happens the rest of the season, because that is a Super Bowl winning roster, everything, one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Like, if the Saints keep it close that game, it's a whole nother story. And there's so many positives to take away from that. If they get absolutely blown out, that's also not great. If they lose by a respective 14, it's exactly how we feel right now. Wins and losses, you take some wins and some bad things in games.
This one, we're all going to go ahead like we did last week, and I think we're going to make it a trend for as long as the rest of the season, is kind of grade whatever quarterbacks play, because this is still technically a quarterback competition. Everybody's going to eye each of these guys, kind of grade them. I'll let Nick start with his grade for Rattler this game.
Yeah, I'm going to give Spencer Rattler a B+. I thought he played well. Obviously, there's some areas for improvement when it comes to ball placement and things like that, but I thought he did enough to win the game, and had the defense had a better performance, the Saints would have done just that.
Yeah, I also... You go.
I'll go. I'll follow. Honestly, I'll go with a B+. Like, a little better than a B. Not so much there on an A. Again, I think he missed some things, but He wasn't getting a lot of help early on, and I think his way to avoid pressures, get out the pocket, the way he used his legs, things like that, really was promising to me. And I think this time around over last week, he didn't have as many, intercept turnover worthy plays. I don't blame him much for the fumble at the end of the game at all, to be honest. He just knew he had to try to make a play with a pressure glaring down on him.
Yeah, and I also have to keep the trend going and give him a B plus. Last week I gave him or Spencer Rattler a C for a bunch of different reasons, but I think this game he was one of my positives. Spencer Rattler just played consistent, made big plays, made smart plays, made all the plays you could think of. Was great in the scheme, way better this was a better scheme this week, so it looked a lot better. Just again, I'm not going to give it an A or A minus because the accuracy issues are still an issue. I know for a fact when I look back at the film of the game, he's going to be Rattler's going to drop back a little bit too far. There's going to be missed throws, but I just think the growth that he showed this past game was just so amazing that being a B plus quarterback right now, you are the starter for the rest of the year. And I can see a vision of you fixing the accuracy issues and becoming the franchise quarterback.
I mean, I've got some peer pressure to go B plus here, but I think I'm going to go against the grain and I'm going to go a B. I just think I hold more weight to some of the misses that he had, like the miss to Olave. I hold a little bit more weight on that, but I do think he was really good in other situations. I thought he was more decisive, which is what you want to see from him. I just want to see a little bit more improvement from some of those accuracy issues.
All right, yeah. And with that being said, make sure you guys tune in with us on Friday as we preview the Saints versus Seahawks. That should be a pretty decent game for how it is. The Seahawks handled the Steelers pretty well. They were also in a close game with the 49ers. I think next week's game would be another good one. Make sure you guys tune in to see our predictions, matchups, things that we think we want to see from the Saints. Let's take over that one. Yeah, have a good one.